So I wanted to focus on Bayview, not only as a neighborhood, but also as a community, and to see if I could bring attention to some of the differences that exist there, and not only there, but on the east side in River West. I actually did live in Bayview for quite some time, and now, as of recently, moved to the east side, and I've noticed a lot of differences, not only in the way that people interact with each other, but with crime and the overall sense of community that exists there. So I wanted to go to the neighborhood of Bayview and see if I can talk to some people about their experiences living there, how they feel about the community, and if they can point out some of the differences they think exist, not only in their neighborhood, but in other parts of the city as well.
All right, so you live in the area then, Bayview?
Yep.
All right, how long have you lived here?
I've lived here about 3 or 4 years.
So do you feel like this is a good community to live in? Do you feel like there's a sense of community here in Bayview?
Um, I don't know exactly if I would say a general sense of community. I think there's definitely, it depends on how much of a step you want to take personally, because I think there's definitely a lot more cohesive neighborhood activities going on here than other places I've lived, but it's still something you kind of need to seek out, I would say.
Okay, where did you live before you lived here?
I've lived in River West on the east side and Shorewood, so I've lived kind of around a few
Okay.
different neighborhoods.
Do you think that there's a huge difference between living there and then living here?
I don't know if I would say a huge difference, but I think there's like each neighborhood kind of has a little bit of a different vibe. Um, like as I said, I feel like you still need to kind of make that first step if you want to be involved in the community.
Do you feel like it's safer here as opposed to like being in River West or being on the east side?
I've never experienced any crime here personally, but I have experienced secondhand accounts of people I know that have been robbed or been had cars broken into. I've never personally had anything happen to me here, but I have had my car broken into in River West. So it's kind of it's anecdotal, and I mean anywhere in the city you're going to have issues, but I think overall I might feel like it's a bit safer in Bayview than a more transient area like the east side or River West.
Why do you think it feels safer? Why do you think it might be safer in comparison to River West or the east side?
I mean it's kind of I don't really have anything other than conjecture to back this up, but I would say I think there's more people that live in Bayview long term. There's fewer students, there's fewer young people, and if you're getting kind of a lot of that demographic that's like later 20s or older living here versus a lot more of a young transient element on the east side or in River West, I would say.
Cool.
But I think it's kind of a combination of a lot of different things. I don't think there's one specific thing that I could put my finger on in that respect.
And do you think that Bayview has like its own like an identity, in comparison to like the East Side has their overall identity? Do you think there's more of an identity here, or is it just different? I mean, what would you say about that?
I think it's less well defined because the East Side you have the central hub of the university, and that drives a lot of the economy in the area. Whether it's like restaurants on the East Side or bars on the East Side, a lot of the clientele are going to be students, and that also affects the whole vibe of the neighborhood. You have the really young people from 18 to mid 20s that are going to be all over the place there, and that really doesn't lend itself to having like a strong communal vibe in that neighborhood for that reason, because it's not permanent residents, it's not people that grew up here for the most part. Whereas Bayview, there's kind of there's a central area kind of on this corner where we're near like Lincoln and KK, but I think it's a lot more neighborhood oriented of a place, and it's a lot more like I mentioned before, like a little bit of an older demographic or a demographic that grew up in the area. So I think that could be something central to that phenomenon.
So do you live in Bayview?
I do.
Awesome. So how long have you lived in the area?
About 2.5, 3 years, something like that.
Cool. So what do you think about the area? Do you like living here?
I do. I really like it. I used to live on the east side, and my big complaint with the east side was that it's just always overcrowded, and it's always overcrowded with people who are constantly coming and going, and it's hard to kind of establish a more long-term adult life in the midst of all these young college kids kind of coming in and out all the time and not really treating the area like it's a place that they're going to be for a while. So
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of detracted from, the attraction I had to the area and wanting to live there for longer than just, the time that I was in college.
Why do you think on the east side there's just a prevalence of crime and vandalism and stuff like that?
I feel like people are really aware of the type of people, most of the type of people that live on the east side, and it being a lot of students who, in some ways, and for a lot of people, have kind of a one-track mind where they're going to live here temporarily. They're going to school, and when they're not going to school, maybe their main objective is having fun and just kind of being out, going to, house parties or whatever. And I think folks that want to take advantage of people who are in a weakened state, if they're inebriated or whatever, they're going to look for those people who
Right.
are not really aware of what's going on around them because they're just more focused on getting to the next house party, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How long did you live on the east side?
I lived on the east side for a long time, probably 8 or 9 years.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think that people would, witness or experience crime and kind of not, or be like apt to like not, say anything about it, or kind of just turn,
Yeah.
turn the other way to avoid confrontation?
I think because a lot of people have the mindset that they're only going to be there for that short period of time that they're going to school or kind of getting themselves established, that it's not if it's not affecting them immediately, it's probably not going to necessarily affect them in the long term. So they're not really going to take a lot of steps to, on the prevention side
Right,
or
right.
for the long-term benefit side, because it's like, oh, this is my temporary situation right now. I'll only be here 2-3 more years tops, and then I will move on. So
Yeah.
why should I, waste my effort towards this initiative that's not going to affect me, not me, but
Yeah. No.
folks that are in that situation,
I'm starting
knowing
to.
it's temporary.
Yeah, no, I guess, yeah, definitely starting to think that that's just like the overall vibe that that kind of feeling that exists there, and I think maybe it's, I don't know if it's kind of a contagious thing where people just kind of just feed off the energy of other people.
I think
and like,
apathy is contagious.
Yeah,
And
so-
if you don't care, and the person next to you doesn't care, and the person next to them doesn't care, why would you start to care?
Definitely, yeah. Do you feel like there's more sense of community here in Bayview than
I do.
in comparison to the east side?
I really do. I feel like businesses that establish themselves here, they're not relying on the transient population to keep them afloat of incoming and outgoing college students, and the people that frequent businesses here are most often people who live in the area.
Right.
So I think that they do their due diligence to give back to the community, and if there is, an incidence of, crimes happening in this neighborhood, I think they're really proactive about trying to spread word, whether that's through word of mouth or through social media. I really do see a lot of that in this neighborhood, and I don't remember ever seeing anything comparable to that on the east side.
After spending some time documenting Bayview, I definitely noticed this stronger sense of community, something that River West and the East Side can definitely benefit from. And it doesn't really happen overnight, but being more vigilant, just being more receptive, communicating with your neighbor, looking out for your neighbor, things like this can really help to achieve that sense of community and to help to sustain it.